The endless black of space stretched like a velvet curtain, dotted with distant stars and shimmering nebulae. Somewhere in the Andromeda sector, the Seraphim Empire's flagship Elysium Radiance glided silently, its silver hull reflecting the faint glow of nearby stars. The vessel was a masterpiece of alien engineering, built for elegance, speed, and absolute authority. At its heart ruled the Empress, Lyria Valens, a being of perfect poise, unmatched intelligence, and a reputation that could silence entire star systems. Lyria's eyes, a shimmering shade of violet unique to her kind, scanned the star charts projected before her. She was reviewing the new sectors her empire had annexed, checking for any unauthorized activity. The Seraphim Empire had long maintained strict control over trade routes and star systems. Any breach was considered an insult and a threat, punishable without hesitation. Yet as she moved her gaze over a cluster of asteroids near the outer edge of their territory, her senses flared. A faint anomaly, a tiny freighter drifting almost aimlessly. At first she assumed it was a minor smuggler or a cargo ship, but something about it caught her attention. There was a scent, a trace of energy unlike any alien she had ever encountered. "Report," she said, her voice calm but sharp, cutting through the hum of her control chamber. The communications officer, a tall, translucent-skinned seraphim with glimmering antennae, stepped forward. "Your Majesty, it appears to be a human vessel. Registration unknown. It is outside permitted travel routes." Lyria's brow arched slightly. Humans. Fragile, short-lived beings that occupied only a tiny corner of the galaxy. Most species considered them weak, unpredictable, and insignificant. And yet, something about the energy emanating from this freighter made her pulse quicken. A sensation she could not name. It was not fear nor curiosity alone, it was interest. "Prepare an interception squad," she commanded. "I will meet this human personally." Her officers hesitated. Direct contact with a human was almost unheard of. The Seraphim Empire rarely engaged with the species. Most of their interactions had ended in confusion or hostility, because humans acted in ways no one could predict. But Lyria did not wait for approval. Her curiosity had taken hold. Within moments, sleek Seraphim fighters detached from the Elysium Radiance, moving like silver comets toward the small freighter. Inside the human ship, Kai, a young engineer, was hunched over a control panel, sweat glistening on his brow. His freighter, the Aurora Drift, had suffered engine damage while navigating the asteroid cluster. This was supposed to be a routine supply run, Kai muttered to himself, swearing under his breath. And now I'm stuck in the middle of nowhere. He glanced at the instruments. The engine core was failing. If he didn't act fast, the ship would drift into the gravitational pull of a nearby asteroid and be crushed. He had learned to improvise on the fly. Humans always did. But he had no idea that the galaxy's most powerful being was watching him at that exact moment. The first Seraphim fighter appeared in his viewport, followed by more. Kai froze for a moment, unsure whether to panic or attempt communication. Before he could act, a voice echoed through his ship's comm system, a voice smooth, commanding, and full of authority. "This is Empress Lyria Valens of the Seraphim Empire," the voice said. "Identify yourself, human. Explain your presence in forbidden space." Kai swallowed, trying to steady his racing heart. I'm Kai, captain of the Aurora Drift. I got caught in an asteroid cluster while delivering supplies. I didn't mean to— You were noticed, Lyria interrupted, her tone calm but unyielding. You are drifting dangerously near restricted territory. I will come aboard personally to assess your intentions. Before Kai could protest, a beam of light enveloped his ship, and the next moment, he was no longer alone. The freighter was gently pulled onto the Elysium Radiance, docking securely in a chamber that was larger than any human ship he had ever seen. The doors opened, and Kai stepped out, blinking at the brilliance of the room. Everything was made of a glowing silver material that seemed almost alive, pulsing faintly beneath his feet. And then he saw her, Lyria Valens, the Empress herself. She floated with perfect grace, her long silvery robes flowing around her like liquid light. Her eyes, glowing softly, were fixed on him. He felt exposed under her gaze, as if she could see every thought in his mind. Kai straightened, forcing himself to speak. I didn't mean to trespass, Your Majesty. I'm just trying to survive." The Empress tilted her head slightly, studying him. "Curious. Most species in your position would be terrified. You are calm, and yet there is a fire in your spirit that I have not encountered before. Kai blinked. Fire? He asked, confused. Determination, she said simply. You survive despite every obstacle. You improvise, adapt, and continue moving forward. That is unusual. Kai's cheeks flushed. He wasn't used to being praised by anyone, let alone by a glowing alien empress whose power could crush entire fleets. I guess I just do what I have to, he said humbly. Lyria's eyes narrowed slightly as if this human had sparked something deep within her. She could sense the energy that humans radiated, a mix of unpredictability, cleverness, and courage. For centuries, her kind had dismissed humans as fragile and weak, but this one, he was different. She moved closer, her presence overwhelming yet not threatening. I must admit I did not expect to feel curiosity toward a human, yet here you are. I will observe you. I will understand this. Spark you carry. Kai took a careful step back, realizing that despite the danger, there was no immediate threat. The Empress was studying him, not with hostility but with interest, and somehow that was far more unnerving than a laser or a weapon. You will remain on my ship for now, she said, her voice firm. Do not attempt to escape. Any interference will be met with immediate consequences. Yes, Your Majesty, Kai said quickly, hiding the mix of fear and fascination rising inside him. Lyria turned away, signaling the end of their first encounter. But inside, her thoughts churned. She had never encountered a being like this before. Humans were small, fragile, and their lifespan was short compared to her own kind. And yet, there was a resilience in him that defied all logic, a spark she could not ignore. As Kai was escorted to a small chamber to rest, Lyria returned to her observation deck, her mind racing. She had always valued control, order, and predictability. That was the foundation of her empire. But this human, this one being challenged everything she thought she knew about life, strength and courage. And for the first time in centuries, the Empress felt something she could not contain, curiosity that bordered on obsession. Outside the observation window, the stars continued to shine, indifferent to the presence of one small human in one vast empire. And yet within the Elysium radiance, the encounter of two vastly different beings marked the beginning of a story that would ripple across the galaxy, challenging rules, expectations, and the very definition of strength. Lyria's violet eyes lingered on the freighter's docking bay, her mind alive with questions. How had such a fragile species survived this long? How could one human alone face dangers that would crumble an entire alien crew? And most importantly, what did it mean that she, the Empress, could not stop thinking about him? The galaxy was vast, the Seraphim Empire was powerful, and yet in a quiet chamber on the edge of forbidden space, a human had arrived and the Empress could not stay calm. The first chapter of an unlikely encounter had begun, and neither Kai nor Lyria knew how much their lives would change after this meeting. The Elysium radiance sailed through the void with quiet authority, its silver hull cutting a gleaming line through the stars. Inside, the Empress Lyria Valens moved with her usual grace, her mind occupied not with trade routes or military strategy, but with the human named Kai. Kai had spent the night in a small chamber prepared for him, a space far simpler than the lavish surroundings he had first glimpsed. The room was functional with soft lighting and minimal furnishings, comfort without extravagance. Despite its simplicity, Kai could not shake the feeling that every detail had been carefully considered, every object designed to influence him in ways he could not understand. When he awoke, a soft chime announced his scheduled audience with the Empress. Kai stood, stretching, and felt the weight of nerves pressing against his chest. He had survived countless challenges before, ship malfunctions, asteroid fields, and hostile markets, but never had he faced a being like Lyria Valens. The doors of the chamber opened, and a subtle hum signaled the presence of the Empress. She entered silently, her eyes fixed on him. Today her robe shimmered more brightly than yesterday, reflecting a violet glow from her eyes, as if the stars themselves had aligned in her presence. Kai, she said, her voice steady, but unusually soft. You have rested. It is time to discuss your presence here and, perhaps, much more. Kai swallowed, uncertain if he should bow, step forward, or simply remain still. Yes, Your Majesty, he said, choosing humility over hesitation. Lyria motioned for him to walk with her through the observation corridors. Outside the tall windows, space stretched infinitely, with clusters of asteroids, distant nebulae, and passing starships. It was a view that humans rarely saw firsthand, yet Kai walked steadily, keeping pace with her unhurried stride. "You survived despite what seems impossible," Lyria began, her gaze fixed on him. "Humans are considered fragile. Others think you are weak, unpredictable, and dangerous to yourself. And yet here you are alive. Explain how you endure." Kai paused, considering his answer. "I guess humans, we adapt," he said finally. "We figure things out. Sometimes we fail, sometimes we get lucky, but we keep moving forward." Lyria's eyes narrowed slightly. "Adaptation," she repeated. "It is a quality admired among my people, yet rarely found in humans. Most rely on strength or cunning, but you rely on instinct, creativity, and persistence." Kai shifted uneasily. He was used to solving problems with tools, knowledge, and experience, but this kind of attention felt almost like being studied under a microscope. "I just do what I can," he admitted. The Empress paused, allowing the silence to stretch. Her thoughts were in turmoil. She had expected fear, resistance, or confusion. Instead, she felt a strange fascination that unsettled her. She was an Empress, accustomed to commanding respect, obedience, and awe. But this human, so small, so seemingly fragile, had sparked something within her she could not name. "You will assist me for a time," she said, finally. "I wish to understand your species. Perhaps your perspective can offer insights we have never considered." Kai blinked. "Assist? You? How?" "By your ingenuity," Lyria replied. "Humans think differently. You do not rely solely on rules or tradition. You improvise. You create. That is what I wish to see." Kai hesitated. The thought of working with one of the galaxy's most powerful beings was daunting, but also exhilarating. "I'll do my best," he said, determination creeping into his voice. Lyria studied him for a long moment. "Good, you are aware that this is not safe. Others may seek to exploit your presence here, to undermine my authority or to endanger you. Yet I will protect you. For now." The word surprised Kai. "Why would you do that?" he asked. The Empress did not answer immediately. Her thoughts drifted to centuries of rule, to countless lives observed, controlled, and sometimes discarded. And yet, here was someone entirely different, someone who refused to fit her expectations, someone whose presence challenged her understanding of power, loyalty, and strength. "Because," she said at last, "you are different, and difference is valuable." Over the next several days, Kai moved freely aboard the Elysium Radiance, learning the structure of the ship, the alien technology, and even some of the Empress's strategies for command. He worked with engineers and scholars, combining human intuition with Seraphim precision. The results astounded Lyria. Where Seraphim designs focused on perfection and predictability, Kai introduced improvisation, creating solutions that were both simple and effective. One day, as they reviewed modifications to the ship's energy core, the Empress watched him closely. His hands moved confidently over alien controls and his eyes sparkled with curiosity. "You find this enjoyable," Lyria observed, almost more to herself than to him. Kai shrugged. "I like solving problems. It's what I do." Lyria's lips curved slightly, a gesture rarely seen among her kind. "And yet your enjoyment is not bound by fear or obligation. It is genuine." Kai looked up at her, meeting her gaze without hesitation. "I suppose it is. When you're working with your life on the line, you either get creative or fail. I choose creative." The Empress felt a thrill she could not explain. In all her centuries, she had seen countless species adapt, evolve, and survive. Yet none had displayed this combination of courage, cleverness, and calm determination. Later, in a private observation chamber, she reflected on the human's presence. Her advisors had begun to notice her distraction. Whispered reports came in. The Empress lingered longer than necessary in the engineering decks. She asked questions about the human's thought process, and she even altered schedules to spend time observing him. This was dangerous. In the rigid hierarchy of the Seraphim Empire, personal distraction could be interpreted as weakness. Rivals might use it as leverage, and dissent could spread among the ranks. Yet Lyria could not suppress the pull she felt toward understanding this species, this human. Meanwhile, Kai, unaware of the political consequences of his presence, began to feel a strange connection with the Empress. He saw glimpses of her curiosity, her intelligence, and a rare vulnerability beneath the commanding exterior. And though he understood the danger, he could not help but admire her brilliance. One afternoon, as they watched a distant star system together, the Empress spoke quietly. "Tell me, Kai, what is it that drives humans to continue, even when all odds seem against them?" Kai thought for a moment. "Hope, I guess. And maybe stubbornness. We want to survive. We want to see what's next. We don't always know how, but we try anyway." Lyria considered his answer, her eyes reflecting the distant starlight. It was simple yet profound. In one species, she had discovered a truth that her entire empire had overlooked. Sometimes, the smallest, weakest creatures could hold the greatest power, not in physical strength, but in determination, creativity, and courage. That night, the Elysium radiance moved through a quiet region of space, the stars glimmering against the black void. Kai rested in his small chamber, unaware that his presence had already begun to change the Empress. Lyria, in her private quarters, paced slowly, replaying the day's events in her mind. The galaxy had taught her that control and order were supreme. But Kai had shown her something else, something unpredictable, challenging, and exhilarating. And for the first time, the Empress felt a stirring she could not name. Curiosity mixed with admiration, respect, and perhaps even fascination. She leaned against the window, staring at the stars. The human spark had awakened a new awareness within her, a realization that her empire might benefit from understanding, not only controlling, the unpredictable strengths of others. As sleep finally came to her, Lyria's last thought was of Kai, the human who had walked aboard her ship and quietly upended centuries of certainty. A new chapter of possibilities had begun, and neither of them fully understood where it would lead. The galaxy was vast. Rules had been written and rewritten over millennia, and yet, within the silver halls of the Elysium Radiance, an unlikely connection had begun. A connection that would challenge expectations, test loyalties, and perhaps redefine the meaning of strength itself. Kai slept, unaware of the subtle changes he had inspired. Lyria remained awake, her mind alive with questions, and somewhere deep within she knew that this human was only the beginning. The Elysium Radiance sailed silently through the void, but the calm was deceptive. Even as the Empress Lyria Valen studied human ingenuity, her advisors had begun to whisper warnings. A small human freighter in forbidden space was not merely a curiosity, it was a threat to the delicate balance of power in the Andromeda sector. Rival alien factions had noticed. They saw opportunity where the Empress saw fascination. The news of a human aboard the flagship spread quickly, and whispers of betrayal reached the ears of those who would seize any chance to undermine the Seraphim Empire. Kai, unaware of the political storm, continued his work on the ship. The engineers he worked with were initially skeptical of his human methods, but his unconventional approach soon produced results that even the most skilled Seraphim could not achieve. Broken engines repaired in hours, energy flows stabilized in new ways, and systems that once required weeks of maintenance now operated at peak efficiency. One morning, while Kai examined the ship's core systems, Lyria appeared beside him. Her presence was calm, almost serene, yet there was an unmistakable tension in her violet eyes. "You are exceeding expectations," she said quietly. "Your mind finds solutions we cannot imagine." Kai smiled faintly. "I just think differently. Sometimes the obvious solution isn't the best one." The Empress watched him, intrigued. "Your species thrives on unpredictability. It is unlike anything my people have seen." Before they could continue, the alarm system blared, echoing through the ship. Red lights flooded the corridors. "Report," Lyria commanded. The communications officer appeared immediately, antennae quivering. "Your Majesty, multiple unknown ships detected approaching at high velocity. They bear the insignia of the Varkari Coalition, a rival empire. They appear to be targeting this vessel." Lyria's gaze hardened. "Prepare defensive formations. Shields to maximum. All combat crews to stations." Kai, though anxious, felt a surge of determination. "Empress, can I help with strategy? I've been studying the ship's systems. Maybe we can combine your defenses with some human tactics." The Empress turned to him, eyes narrowing. "Human strategy?" she asked, curiosity tempered with caution. "Explain." Kai stepped forward, pointing to the holographic display of the ship. "Your ships are powerful but predictable. Your fleet moves in strict formations. following rules that enemies can anticipate. Humans, we improvise. We use deception, distraction, and unpredictability to gain advantage. If I coordinate with your fleet, we can create traps and lure the enemy into weaknesses they won't expect. Lyria considered this carefully. Trusting a human with military strategy was risky, too risky for most leaders. Yet something in Kai's tone, his confidence and clarity, resonated with her. She made her decision. Do it, she commanded. You will coordinate with my fleet commanders. Your insights will guide our response. Kai nodded, adrenaline pumping through his veins. For the first time in his life, he was part of a larger battle, one that could decide the fate of countless beings. As the enemy ships approached, the Varkari coalition fleet spread in a classic attack formation, expecting the Seraphim to respond predictably. Lyria's flagship, under Kai's guidance, altered course and energy deployment, creating a series of decoys and false energy signatures. The enemy hesitated, confused by movements that defied their expectations. Kai's human intuition became a decisive force. Small fighter groups were dispatched in unexpected directions, drawing enemy attention while the main fleet prepared precision strikes. Lyria watched in fascination as her own fleet, now moving unpredictably yet in perfect synchronization, outmaneuvered the Varkari forces. The battle intensified. Energy beams streaked through the void, exploding against shields and asteroid surfaces. Alarms blared, but Kai remained focused, calling out adjustments to the fleet. Shift flank 2 forward. No, retract by 10 meters. Now redirect energy from the port cannons. Lyria followed his commands closely, amazed at the human's instinct for problem-solving under pressure. She had expected fear, hesitation, or chaos, but Kai acted with calm precision, adapting to every shift in the enemy's strategy. Hours passed in tense coordination. The Varkari fleet, frustrated and disoriented, began to falter. Ships collided, engines overloaded, and communications scrambled. Kai's combination of human ingenuity and the Empress's unmatched command created a force the enemy could not predict. Finally, the remaining Varkari ships withdrew, retreating into the darkness of space. The Elysium Radiance remained intact, its shields battered but holding, its crew exhilarated and grateful. Lyria turned to Kai, her expression unreadable at first. Then slowly a rare smile spread across her face. You have proven something remarkable today, she said. You are not weak, fragile, or insignificant. You are extraordinary. Kai, still catching his breath, felt a mix of relief and pride. Thanks, Your Majesty. I just did what I thought would work. You think differently, Lyria said, her eyes reflecting a strange warmth. And that difference has saved my fleet, my crew, and perhaps even this empire. In the quiet moments after the battle, Lyria reflected on what she had witnessed. Humans were supposed to be small, short-lived, and fragile. Yet this one human had demonstrated qualities that even the most advanced seraphim struggled to emulate. Adaptability, ingenuity, courage under pressure, and the ability to inspire those around him. Her curiosity deepened. Kai was more than a survivor. He was a catalyst. She realized that his presence was not just a chance encounter, it was an opportunity. An opportunity to learn, to grow, and to rethink the very notions of strength and power that had guided her empire for centuries. Kai, for his part, began to understand the Empress not merely as a ruler, but as a being of incredible intellect and vision. He saw the pressure she carried, the weight of decisions that affected billions, and the rare moments when she allowed herself to appreciate something beyond duty. And in those moments, Kai felt a connection, not romantic, but something deeper. Respect, understanding, and shared purpose. Days passed. Kai continued to work closely with Lyria and her advisors, improving systems, streamlining operations, and introducing new ideas that no seraphim had considered. Each success strengthened his confidence and deepened Lyria's fascination. Yet not all were pleased. Within the Seraphim Council, dissent grew. Some argued that Lyria's interest in a human was dangerous, a distraction that threatened the stability of the empire. Whispers of betrayal spread, and rival factions plotted to exploit the situation. One evening, as Lyria observed the stars in quiet reflection, she considered the risks. Humans were unpredictable, and Kai was a reminder that not all power could be controlled. But she also saw the potential. Humans could teach lessons that centuries of seraphim tradition had overlooked. They could challenge assumptions, inspire creativity, and even strengthen the Empire in ways rigid discipline never could. I must protect him, she thought, and I must learn from him, perhaps. This human is the key to something greater than we have ever imagined. In the quiet of the flagship, Kai prepared for the next phase of his journey. He did not know the dangers that awaited beyond the Empire's borders, nor the rival factions that might strike. All he knew was that he had found a purpose: to survive, to create, and to prove that even a human, small, fragile, and underestimated, could make a difference in a galaxy dominated by powerful alien empires. The stars outside the observation deck seemed to shimmer with possibility. A single spark, a human spark, had ignited curiosity, respect, and the potential for change. And neither Kai nor Lyria could yet imagine how far that spark would reach. The galaxy, vast and endless, was on the brink of a new chapter. Alliances would be tested, strategies challenged, and long-held assumptions overturned. And at the heart of it all, a human and an Empress would navigate a path that neither could have predicted, proving that strength does not always come from size, power, or tradition. It comes from courage, ingenuity, and the willingness to act when others hesitate. The Elysium radiance drifted through a quiet sector of space, yet the calm was only temporary. Reports of the Varkari coalition's retreat had reached the Empress, but the danger was far from over. Hidden pockets of enemy forces lingered in nearby systems, waiting for any chance to strike. Lyria Valens knew that the galaxy was unforgiving, and she could not underestimate the human whose presence had already caused such ripples. Kai spent the day in the engineering decks, reviewing systems and implementing improvements with the Seraphim engineers. Despite the tension in the galaxy, he worked with quiet confidence, finding creative ways to optimize energy flows and repair minor damages from the earlier battle. His presence had become a daily reminder of human ingenuity, a spark that the Empress found increasingly difficult to ignore. As Kai adjusted the core stabilizers, a new alarm blared across the ship. Lyria's sharp voice immediately cut through the deck's comms. "Situation report." The communications officer's antennae quivered as he relayed the data. "Your Majesty, sensors detect multiple unidentified vessels emerging from nearby asteroid fields. They are heavily armed and moving with precision, likely Varkari forces regrouping." Lyria's violet eyes narrowed. "Prepare for engagement. Shields to maximum. Deploy fighter wings immediately." "Kai, your advice is required." Kai took a deep breath. "The enemy is using classic attack patterns. They expect predictable responses. But we can turn that against them. If we create decoy energy signatures and use small, agile fighters to flank, we can split their forces before they reach the main fleet." The Empress studied him closely. "Very well. You will coordinate the flanking maneuvers. My fleet will follow your lead." Minutes later, the first streaks of enemy ships appeared against the backdrop of stars. The Varkari fleet moved swiftly, expecting an easy victory. But the Elysium radiance had changed since Kai's arrival. Systems were optimized, fighters repositioned, and energy patterns shifted unpredictably. Kai barked orders, his voice steady despite the chaos. "Red wing, flank left. Blue wing, engage decoy energy signatures. Maintain pressure on the forward cannons." Lyria watched with fascination as her own forces executed maneuvers she would never have considered without him. The human strategies were bold, sometimes reckless by Seraphim standards, but they worked. The enemy faltered, unable to anticipate the improvisation and speed of the fleet. As the battle intensified, Lyria noticed something remarkable. Kai remained calm under pressure, even as explosions rocked nearby ships. His mind adapted instantly to changing conditions, and his decisions saved countless lives. The Empress felt a deep respect for him, not only for his intellect but for his courage. The Varkari fleet regrouped, attempting a concentrated assault on the flagship. Lyria's eyes met Kai's across the communications screen. "Your plan is risky," she warned. "I know," Kai replied. "But it's the only way to break their formation. Trust me." With a subtle nod, Lyria gave the order to execute. Fighters darted in unexpected paths, energy beams redirected, and decoy signals lit up the void. The Varkari ships collided with their own miscalculations, their cohesion shattered. The Seraphim fleet, guided by human intuition, struck with precision, forcing the enemy into a retreat. After the battle, silence filled the command deck. Lyria looked at Kai, her expression a mixture of awe and something she could not name. "You are remarkable," she said simply. I have never seen such courage and clarity under fire. Kai shrugged, hiding his pride. I just did what humans do. We don't give up when it seems impossible. We think, we act, and we adapt. The Empress considered his words. Perhaps. That is the essence of your species. You survive not because you are strong, but because you refuse to fail. Kai felt a strange warmth at her words. He had faced countless dangers in his life, but recognition from the galaxy's most powerful being was unlike anything else, and yet he knew the battle was only the beginning. In the aftermath, the Empress convened a private council. Advisors expressed concern over her reliance on the humans' advice. Your Majesty, one said, humans are unpredictable. What if this one betrays us? What if his influence causes instability? Lyria's gaze was steady. This human has shown wisdom and courage beyond expectation. He has saved my fleet, my people, and my empire. I will not discard such value out of fear. Another advisor hesitated. But, Your Majesty, political rivals may exploit this. They may call your judgment into question. Lyria's eyes flashed with resolve. Let them. I am responsible for my choices. Kai has proven that strength is not always obvious. Perhaps it is time we reconsider our assumptions about power and potential. Meanwhile, Kai continued to work with engineers and strategists. He had access to technologies he had never imagined, yet he remained humble, focusing on solutions rather than glory. His innovations improved shield efficiency, optimized energy distribution, and even allowed fighters to maneuver more unpredictably, giving the fleet a permanent advantage. One evening, the Empress invited Kai to the observation deck. Stars glimmered like diamonds and distant nebulae painted the void in shades of purple and blue. She watched him as he studied the galaxy, his eyes reflecting curiosity and determination. You seem at ease, Lyria remarked. Even after the battle, Kai smiled faintly. I've faced worse. Out here you learn to stay calm, think clearly, and trust your instincts. Panic doesn't help. The Empress tilted her head, considering him. Humans possess a resilience I cannot ignore. You adapt, improvise, and act when others hesitate. You inspire not only your own kind, but those around you. Kai's heart raced. He had faced countless challenges, but recognition from the Empress felt different. I only do what I must, he said humbly. You do more than that, she replied. You remind me that strength is not measured by size, lifespan, or tradition. It is measured by courage, ingenuity, and the refusal to surrender. Kai's gaze met hers, and for a moment, the distance between their worlds felt smaller. He understood the weight of her responsibilities, and she understood the value of human perseverance. Days later, the Empress received intelligence of another approaching threat, an advanced Varkari fleet intent on revenge. This time the stakes were higher. The enemy had learned from previous defeats and now moved with greater caution and strategy. Lyria knew she could not rely solely on Seraphim tradition. She needed Kai's ingenuity more than ever. As the enemy ships closed in, Kai devised a plan that combined Seraphim strength with human creativity. Small, nimble fighters would act as decoys, luring the enemy into traps. Energy cores would be rerouted unpredictably, creating openings for decisive strikes. Every element of the plan relied on improvisation, a trait the Seraphim normally avoided. Lyria watched the preparations, her violet eyes reflecting the tension of anticipation. This will test your species, Kai, she said quietly. Kai nodded. I know, but we'll get through it. When the battle began, the fleet moved with precision and unpredictability. Kai's strategies forced the Varkari ships into confusion and disarray. The Elysium Radiance became the focal point of coordinated maneuvers, its shields absorbing attacks while its fighters struck from unexpected angles. Throughout the engagement, Kai remained composed, his human intuition guiding each action. Lyria observed closely, noting every decision and adjustment. She realized that humans had an advantage her empire had long overlooked, the ability to embrace uncertainty and turn it into strength. After hours of conflict, the enemy fleet finally retreated, unable to counter the combined ingenuity of human strategy and Seraphim power. The Elysium Radiance emerged victorious, its systems intact and its crew invigorated. In the quiet aftermath, Lyria turned to Kai, admiration evident in her expression. You have proven once again that your species possesses qualities my empire has long underestimated. Courage, creativity, and adaptability are forces that cannot be ignored. Kai smiled, exhausted but proud. Do what humans do. We survive, we adapt. We try to make a difference. Lyria's gaze softened. And in doing so, you have changed my perspective and perhaps the future of this empire. As night fell across the observation deck, the stars stretching infinitely before them, the Empress reflected on what she had witnessed. Humans were not the fragile, short-lived beings the galaxy assumed. They were catalysts for change, sparks that could ignite entire civilizations. Kai, unaware of the full significance of his actions, felt a quiet sense of purpose. He had not only survived battles that seemed impossible, but he had inspired one of the galaxy's most powerful beings to reconsider the nature of strength itself. And in that moment, both human and Empress understood a fundamental truth. Courage, ingenuity, and perseverance were forces more powerful than any weapon, more influential than any empire, and capable of reshaping the course of history. The galaxy was vast, filled with challenges and unknown dangers. But Kai had proven that even a single human, small and underestimated, could change the tide of events. And Lyria Valens, the Empress of the Seraphim Empire, had begun to embrace a new understanding of power, one that included respect, curiosity, and the unpredictable brilliance of humanity. The story of two worlds, one fragile and one powerful, intertwined in a dance of survival, innovation, and mutual discovery. And as the stars shimmered silently outside the observation deck, a new chapter awaited. The galaxy was stirring. After the decisive victory against the Varkari coalition, the Elysium radiance moved through space with a renewed sense of purpose. Empress Lyria Valens stood on the observation deck, her violet eyes scanning distant star systems. Her empire had survived, but she knew that survival was not enough. Change was necessary. Kai, still aboard the flagship, had become more than a visitor. He was now an advisor of sorts, a human in a position that no other had ever held. He was trusted, respected, and most importantly, seen for what he truly was. A symbol of human ingenuity, courage, and determination. Lyria approached him quietly. "Kai," she said softly, "your actions have not only saved this fleet but shown my empire a truth we ignored for centuries. Humans, your species possesses strength in ways we never expected." Kai looked out at the stars, humbled. "I never thought my species would matter this much in a galaxy like yours. I just do what humans do. We survive, we adapt. We try to make a difference." The Empress smiled faintly. "And in doing so, you have reshaped our perspective. Your influence will ripple across our empire and beyond." Outside, scouts reported new movements, ships from neutral systems approaching the Seraphim territory. Some came seeking alliances, others perhaps testing the fleet's defenses. Lyria knew this was the opportunity she had been waiting for, a chance to not only secure her empire but to create something unprecedented. She called a meeting with Kai and her council. "We must invite these civilizations to join us," she began. "But this time differently. We will offer cooperation, not control. And Kai, your insight as a human will guide these discussions." The council murmured in surprise. Trusting a human to assist with diplomacy was unheard of. Yet Lyria's authority was absolute, and she continued. "Humans are resilient, resourceful, and capable of inspiring others. If we can combine our discipline with their adaptability, we may create a future stronger than any empire alone." Kai nodded, though he felt the weight of responsibility pressing down. "I'll do my best. If we can show that humans and aliens can work together, maybe we can prevent future conflicts." The first diplomatic delegation arrived from the nearby Zephyrian system. Their ships were sleek, faster than the Varkari vessels, and their leaders cautious but curious. Lyria and Kai welcomed them aboard the flagship. Kai observed their nervousness and offered a small smile. "Humans and aliens can work together," he said simply. "We just have to show them that trust and creativity can accomplish more than fear or aggression." The Zephyrian ambassador, a tall, shimmering being with translucent skin, nodded slowly. "We have heard of your fleet's recent victories. It seems your human companion has proven remarkable." Lyria's eyes glinted. "Indeed, his insight has saved countless lives, and it has shown me the value of perspectives we once dismissed." Kai felt a mixture of pride and humility. He had never imagined that a human could be instrumental in interstellar diplomacy. Yet here he was, standing among alien leaders, representing not only his species but the potential of cooperation. Over the next several weeks, Kai worked with engineers, strategists, and diplomats. He helped design new fleet maneuvers, optimized resource distribution, and even suggested innovative ways to resolve disputes without conflict. Lyria observed and learned, gradually integrating his ideas into the Seraphim Empire's long-standing protocols. One evening, as the ambassadors departed, Lyria and Kai stood alone on the observation deck. Stars sparkled against the black canvas of space, their light reflecting in the Empress's eyes. "You've done more than I ever expected," Lyria said quietly. "Not only have you saved lives, but you've changed the way we think. Humans may be small and short-lived, but your impact is immense," Kai laughed softly. "I'm just one human. There are billions more back on Earth, or back on my planet, who might surprise you even more." Lyria studied him, intrigued. "Perhaps. But you, Kai, have been enough to shift the course of an empire. You've proven that courage and ingenuity can outmatch strength alone. That is a lesson my people will not forget." Kai felt a strange sense of calm. He had faced unimaginable challenges, navigated alien politics, and contributed to victories that seemed impossible. Yet the greatest reward was not recognition. It was the knowledge that humans had left a mark, that their qualities of resilience, creativity, and determination had been seen and respected by one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. The Empress turned to the vast window once more. "Kai, I have made a decision. The Seraphim Empire will not simply control other species. We will collaborate, learn, and grow together. And you, humans, will have a place in our future." Kai's eyes widened. That's incredible. I never imagined humans could be trusted or welcomed on such a scale." "They will be," Lyria said, her voice firm but filled with hope, "because you have proven that they can inspire change, and because I have learned that strength is not only in power, but in courage, adaptability, and vision." For the first time in centuries, the Empress felt unburdened. She had long ruled with discipline and expectation, but now she understood that true leadership also required openness and trust. Kai had shown her a path forward, one where humans were not underestimated, and where collaboration could create a future stronger than any empire could achieve alone. Days turned into weeks, and the new alliance began to take shape. Humans were officially recognized as contributors to the Seraphim Empire's strategic and diplomatic initiatives. Kai helped establish training programs where humans and Seraphim worked side by side, sharing ideas, skills, and perspectives. It was unprecedented, and it worked. The galaxy slowly began to take notice. Other species, once wary of the Seraphim Empire's strict control, now approached with curiosity and willingness to engage. Lyria's decision to embrace human ingenuity had not only strengthened her empire, but also fostered cooperation and understanding across previously hostile systems. One evening, after a long day of diplomatic meetings, Kai and Lyria returned to the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly before them, twinkling with possibilities yet to be explored. "You've changed everything," Kai said quietly. "Not just for humans, but for your empire and the galaxy itself." Lyria smiled, a rare warmth in her violet eyes. "And you, Kai, have reminded me that even the smallest spark can illuminate the darkest of spaces. Humans are fragile, yes, but their spirit, ingenuity, and courage, that is something even empires cannot ignore." Kai felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had survived, adapted, and made a difference far beyond what he had imagined. Humanity, once considered insignificant by the galaxy's mightiest powers, now had a voice, a role, and a future among the stars. Lyria placed a hand on the railing beside him, her gaze thoughtful. "The galaxy is vast, full of dangers and wonders, but together, humans and Seraphim, perhaps even other species, can face whatever comes next. You have proven that potential is not limited by size, lifespan, or tradition. True strength comes from courage, ingenuity, and the refusal to give up." Kai nodded, inspired. "Then let's make sure humanity lives up to that. And maybe together we can make the galaxy a little better for everyone." The stars shimmered in agreement. Above the void of space, the Elysium radiance glided silently, carrying with it a new hope. The human spark had ignited change, not through force but through courage, intellect, and the power of an unyielding spirit. The story of the human engineer and the alien Empress had reached its conclusion, but the legacy of their alliance, the lessons learned, and the bridge between species would endure. Kai, Once a simple human drifting in the void had become a symbol, that even the smallest and most underestimated beings could leave an indelible mark on the universe. And Lyria Valens, the Empress of the Seraphim Empire, had embraced the truth that strength could take many forms, especially the form of human resilience and ingenuity. As the galaxy continued its endless dance of stars, systems and civilizations, one thing was certain: the human spirit had proven its worth, and the universe would never see humans the same way again. The Elysium radiance moved forward, a shining beacon of collaboration, innovation, and hope. Humanity and the Seraphim Empire, once distant and separate, now shared a bond that would shape the future of the galaxy itself. And somewhere deep within, both Kai and Lyria knew this was only the beginning of what humans could accomplish, and what the galaxy could become.